Samuel and Elaine Han seemed to have it all: a successful career, a perfect home, and two bright children. But behind closed doors, darkness was quietly building, and one terrifying night, their lives and the life of young Kevin would be shattered forever. This is the chilling story of the Han family murders. The Han family had always appeared to live a picture-perfect life. Their house on Serenity Lane was immaculate, with a manicured lawn, blooming flowers, and windows that reflected the sunlight like mirrors. Dr. Samuel Han, a respected surgeon, spent long hours at the hospital, but he always made it home for dinner, creating the image of a devoted father and husband. Elaine, his wife, managed the household with precision, overseeing her children's education and social schedules with a careful hand. Lily, their 14-year-old daughter, excelled in school and dance, while 12-year-old Kevin showed early signs of intelligence, often tinkering with electronics in the garage or reading about science and technology. To outsiders, the Hans embodied the American dream, a family thriving in a safe, prosperous suburban neighborhood. Yet beneath this polished exterior, subtle signs of strain had begun to emerge, unnoticed by neighbors who only saw smiling faces during community gatherings and weekend barbecues. Inside the Han home, tension simmered quietly. Samuel's work consumed him, and Elaine grew increasingly anxious about every aspect of their lives, from financial security to the behavior of their children. There were late-night arguments, whispered conversations, and moments of palpable unease that the family tried desperately to hide from the outside world. On a Tuesday morning, a jogger passing the street noticed something unusual. The Hans mailbox was overflowing with unopened letters and packages, a stark contrast to the family's usual punctuality and attention to detail. It seemed minor, almost trivial, yet it hinted at a growing disconnect from normal life. Samuel and Elaine, once meticulous about even small matters, were letting daily responsibilities slip. The children, usually full of energy and chatter, were absent from the front yard, their laughter missing from the neighborhood air. By late morning, the atmosphere on Serenity Lane had shifted. A neighbor, concerned by the silence, glanced toward the Han residence and felt a strange unease. The house, always bustling with life, seemed almost lifeless. Windows were closed tightly, and no sounds of activity, no television, no voices, no music escaped the walls. It was as if the family had vanished without a trace. The tranquility of the suburban street, once comforting, became unsettling, hinting that something was terribly wrong. In the hours that followed, this unease would escalate into fear as the perfect image of the Han family shattered, leaving behind shadows that would soon reveal a nightmare no one in the neighborhood could have imagined. The calm of Serenity Lane was shattered when police arrived at the Han residence. The first officers to enter the house were met with a scene of chaos that immediately signaled a violent confrontation had taken place. The front door, slightly ajar, swung on its hinges as if disturbed in a hurry. Inside, the living room was unrecognizable. Furniture lay overturned, family photos were scattered across the floor, and shards of broken glass glimmered ominously under the dim light filtering through the curtains. The atmosphere was heavy, thick with the metallic scent of blood, and the officers immediately understood that this was no ordinary disturbance. In the midst of the disorder, the bodies of Samuel, Elaine, and Lily were discovered. Each showed clear signs of a struggle, suggesting they had fought desperately before their lives were taken. The brutality was shocking not just for the physical evidence, but for the intimacy of the crime. It was a family home, a place that should have represented safety and comfort, now transformed into a grim tableau of violence. Kevin, however, was nowhere to be found. The youngest member of the family had seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. Detectives began meticulously documenting the scene, noting every detail. Broken furniture hinted at resistance, scuffed floors indicated frantic movement, and faint smudges on walls suggested someone had been dragged or forced through the home. Yet, there were no signs of forced entry, leaving the unnerving possibility that the perpetrator was someone the family knew and trusted. The neighbors, drawn by the flashing lights and the arrival of emergency personnel, stared in disbelief. Many had waved to the haunts just days before, exchanged smiles across fences, or watched their children play together in the street. Now, the house that had been a symbol of suburban perfection was a stark reminder that darkness could lurk anywhere. As forensic teams combed the residence for evidence, the police also began interviewing those closest to the family. Friends, colleagues, and neighbors provided pieces of the puzzle, but no one could explain the motive or the perpetrator. Rumors began to circulate, but nothing concrete emerged. The missing Kevin became a central concern. Had he been taken by the same person responsible for the murders, or had he somehow escaped? The unanswered questions hung over the investigation like a storm cloud. The community, once confident in the safety of their quiet street, was now gripped by fear, realizing that the horrors hidden behind closed doors often remained invisible until it was too late. The investigation into the Han family murders quickly revealed layers of secrets that no one in the neighborhood could have imagined. Police discovered that Samuel Han, despite his outwardly stable career as a surgeon, had been involved in high-stakes financial dealings that carried considerable risk. While friends and colleagues saw him as successful and methodical, his private ventures had left him with hidden debts and a growing number of enemies. Threatening letters, some typed and some handwritten, were found in a hidden safe, hinting at an escalating conflict that Samuel had carefully concealed from his family and associates. Elaine, meanwhile, presented a different kind of mystery. Her carefully curated social media presence, which showed a cheerful mother managing a perfect household, masked a life increasingly consumed by fear and suspicion. Investigators found journals filled with obsessive notes about safety, strangers, and the feeling that someone was watching her family. Photographs of unknown figures were scattered among the pages, and some were even taken from outside the home, suggesting that Elaine had been monitoring potential threats without alerting anyone. The picture that emerged was of a woman constantly on edge, acutely aware of danger that others could not see, yet unable to prevent the tragedy that would soon befall them. Perhaps the most unsettling discovery involved Kevin, the youngest Han child. Investigators uncovered evidence that he had been secretly communicating with someone online. These messages, initially cryptic and casual, gradually revealed a troubling pattern. Kevin had been in contact with an individual whose interest in the family went beyond friendship. The communications hinted at manipulation and obsession, painting a chilling picture of how easily someone could infiltrate even the safest-seeming home. Police began to suspect that the murders were carefully planned rather than spontaneous, executed by someone with knowledge of the family's routines and vulnerabilities. The combination of Samuel's financial entanglements, Elaine's paranoia, and Kevin's online interactions created a web of complexity that investigators struggled to untangle. Each revelation opened new lines of inquiry, yet no single lead explained the full horror of the night the Hants were killed. Neighbors meanwhile wrestled with disbelief, struggling to reconcile the family they thought they knew with the secrets now coming to light. The story that had seemed so simple, a close-knit family living a peaceful suburban life, was unraveling into something far more sinister. Every new clue brought the investigation closer to uncovering the shocking truth, a truth that promised to reveal not just the identity of the killer, but also the disturbing reasons behind a crime that would haunt Serenity Lane forever. The search for Kevin became the central focus of the investigation, consuming law enforcement and the local community alike. Hours turned into days, and each lead seemed to vanish as quickly as it appeared. Police meticulously traced every possible contact, reviewed countless surveillance cameras, and analyzed every message the boy had sent online. The deeper they dug, the more the case revealed an unsettling reality. Kevin's disappearance was not a random act but part of a carefully orchestrated plan. Surveillance footage eventually provided a breakthrough. At a gas station miles from Serenity Lane, Kevin was captured entering a vehicle with a hooded figure. The footage, grainy but undeniable, sent shockwaves through the investigation team. This was no mere missing child case. Kevin had been abducted by someone who knew precisely how to avoid detection. The realization that a stranger with intricate knowledge of the family's movements had orchestrated the abduction intensified the urgency. The community, already reeling from the murder of the parents and Lily, now faced the terrifying possibility that the killer was still active and dangerously close. Forensic evidence from the Han home revealed even more about the perpetrator's meticulous planning. Fingerprints and traces of DNA confirmed that the attacker had spent time in the house, moving carefully to avoid leaving behind obvious evidence. Items from the family were missing, suggesting that the abductor intended to exert control over Kevin while keeping him isolated. The combination of methodical preparation and calculated cruelty left detectives with a chilling sense that this was not just a crime of opportunity, but a premeditated act driven by obsession. As the search intensified, tips from vigilant neighbors began to narrow the field of suspects. One individual, a distant acquaintance of the family who had previously expressed envy and resentment toward the Hants, emerged as a person of interest. Investigators uncovered a pattern of behaviors indicating that this individual had been monitoring the family for months, possibly years. Every interaction, every gesture, seemed to be a piece of a puzzle leading up to the night of the murders and Kevin's disappearance. Meanwhile, Kevin's resilience became apparent. Despite the terrifying circumstances, he remained remarkably resourceful, leaving small clues behind: an object discarded in a trash bin, a mark on a doorframe that hinted at his presence and location. These subtle signals became lifelines for the investigators, guiding them closer to the truth. Each discovery, though small, built a narrative of suspense and hope. The tension grew daily as the search for Kevin combined with the hunt for the killer, creating a race against time where every decision, every lead, could mean the difference between life and death. The investigation reached its climax when the identity of the perpetrator finally came into focus. The distant family acquaintance, long suspected due to past interactions and subtle signs of obsession, was confronted with mounting evidence. Surveillance footage, forensic traces, and online communications all pointed to a chilling truth. This individual had not only planned the murders, but had been meticulously monitoring the family for months. The confession that followed revealed a motive steeped in envy, resentment, and a twisted desire for control. The killer had seen the Hants as a perfect family, one that flaunted the security and success he had long been denied, and his obsession had escalated into deadly action. Kevin's rescue was orchestrated with careful precision. Following subtle clues, the boy had left behind scraps of fabric, footprints, and objects discarded in public spaces. Police traced him to a secluded location. Though he had endured a terrifying ordeal, Kevin emerged physically unharmed, his spirit remarkably intact despite the emotional trauma. The boy's survival provided a glimmer of hope in a tragedy otherwise marked by unimaginable loss. His account, pieced together carefully by investigators, offered the final pieces of the puzzle, confirming how the abductor had executed the plan and revealing the terrifying level of calculation behind every move. The trial that followed gripped the community and drew national attention. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: the careful documentation of the murders, the traces left behind, and the online exchanges that connected Kevin to the perpetrator. In the courtroom, the story of the Hants family unfolded in stark detail, exposing the darkness that had lurked behind their seemingly perfect lives. The confession, combined with forensic and digital evidence, left no doubt about the killer's identity or intent. The verdict was swift and decisive. The perpetrator was convicted, ensuring justice for the Hants family, though the emotional scars left on Serenity Lane and Kevin would never fully heal. In the aftermath, the community grappled with the unsettling truth that evil often hides behind familiar faces, and that the appearance of normalcy can be deceiving. Homes once considered safe became reminders that vigilance and awareness are crucial, even in the quietest neighborhoods. Kevin's story, though marked by loss, became a testament to resilience. He returned to life with a newfound awareness of danger and a deep understanding of the fragility of safety. The Han family murders would be remembered not only for their shocking brutality, but also as a haunting reminder that appearances can conceal terrifying realities. Their legacy lived on in Kevin, the sole survivor, whose survival brought closure to a story that had begun as suburban perfection and ended in chilling tragedy.